the California Attorney General is already describing Trump's order as a terrifying tone to set his second term. And he said he has one message for the president, which is, I'll see you in court. Another lawsuit filed is they're attempting to block Trump's order. And so this legal fight is ultimately going to end up in the Supreme Court of the United States.
Yesterday also saw the release of some of the faces of the January the 6th riot after they were pardoned by Trump, including the QAnon shaman Jacob Chansley. The president defended the pardons, saying those convicted had been treated terribly and had their lives ruined.
It's a disgusting prison. It's been horrible. It's inhumane. It's been a terrible, terrible thing. So these people have already served a long period of time, and I made a decision to give a pardon. Joe Biden gave a pardon yesterday to a lot of criminals. These are criminals that he gave a pardon to. And you should be asking that question. Why did he give a pardon to all of these people that committed crimes?
Well, Tanya Nori is a senior White House producer for News Nation and joins us live from Washington, D.C. Morning, Tanya.
Good morning.
Sounds like Trump has wasted no time hitting the ground running.
No, the first full day of President Donald Trump's term consistently evolved by the hour here in Washington, D.C.
I mean, let's talk about some of the specifics. I mean, he made a couple of big economic announcements. First of all, this big investment in artificial intelligence, but also his plan for trade tariffs on China. What exactly is he considering?
Yes, so those both came during the same announcement from the White House Roosevelt Room. And so Trump, he was hosting executives from SoftBank, OpenAI, and Oracle to announce this joint venture for investing in artificial intelligence infrastructure in the United States. And so this will be known as Stargate. The companies will invest at least $100 billion to begin with plans to eventually pour up to $500 billion over the span of 4 years. And so ultimately, it is set to accelerate production of American-made AI to compete against China. And so Trump also within the first 24 hours in office rolled back on an executive order from his predecessor, former President Joe Biden, on AI safety requirements when it comes to government use in order to allow for the creation of even more data centers. And actually, we learned today that the first project is already under construction in Texas. So that was the big announcement that he had today from the White House. And then from there, it ultimately led to questions from reporters. And that's where he shared the news about the tariffs on China.
And I'm right in saying it was also during those questions with reporters that he basically kind of floated this idea of having half of TikTok potentially owned by an American company, because we know there's been this controversy over TikTok's status in the US. There was a Supreme Court ban that came into effect very briefly on Saturday night. Then Trump issued a reprieve of that, so TikTok's live again now in the US. But he has suggested, look, you need a permit if you are TikTok's parent company to operate in America. And he's saying, I'm not going to grant that potentially unless some of its ownership is transferred to the US.
Yes, this is true. It was a very newsworthy press conference. And so transferred over to the US. And he also was not opposed to Elon Musk potentially being a part of this deal. So we don't have more information on that, but the TikTok scandal has been a big deal here in the United States, especially since it went dark for less than 24 hours. And so that is something that Trump has kind of been speaking about a lot, and he is going to act on it soon.
Wow, the thought of Elon Musk owning both X and TikTok is quite something.
SpaceX.
Yeah, and SpaceX, indeed. Let's come on to his plan to crack down on illegal immigration, which is obviously well known, Tanya. But his plan to remove birthright citizenship from the children of illegal migrants is coming under particular scrutiny. Now, this is obviously the fact that if you're born in the US, you are automatically given American citizenship. But 18 states have lodged lawsuits against the executive order that Trump issued on Monday.
Yes, and so this is part of Trump's aggressive slate of immigration executive orders. He campaigned on this. This is something that he has vowed to do. And so now he is saying that starting in 30 days, he is going to end birthright citizenship. And that is a longstanding constitutional right that people born inside of the US are guaranteed citizenship. And so he's directing federal agencies to deny this right from babies born to mothers in the country unlawfully, but also under this order, it would apply to those born to parents in the US who are here on work visas or tourism visas or those sort of visas if neither parent is a US citizen or permanent resident. And so the California Attorney General is already describing Trump's order as a terrifying tone to set his second term. And he said he has one message for the president, which is, I'll see you in court. Another lawsuit filed is they're attempting to block Trump's order. And so this legal fight is ultimately going to end up in the Supreme Court of the United States.
And I think an interesting point is, a lot has been made of the number of executive orders that Trump issued in his first few hours back in office. And of course, that is a presidential power, but they're not free of challenge. They can face legal scrutiny.
Yes. And a lot of these executive orders are expected to end up in the Supreme Court. So it's not a definite given. He campaigned on these promises. He's vowing to make these promises become a reality, but a lot of them will have to go through the court of law here.
So very busy first full day back in office for Donald Trump, Tanya. What are we expecting from day two?
As of now, we do not have a schedule set for what he's expected to do. As of now, we don't have a full schedule set. So
but probably not a dull one, given how day one went.
No, and with Donald Trump, it's always up in the air what he's going to do. So you never know. You never know.
Just finally, from your perspective, as someone who is an experienced White House watcher, just sum up, if you can, the contrast between the Biden administration and the Trump administration. I mean, the Times has a great piece this morning showing the changes Trump has already made to the Oval Office, just visually. I mean, you've got a bust of Winston Churchill back, you've got a portrait of Andrew Jackson back, and he's got rid of Joe Biden's bust of Harry Truman and a portrait of Benjamin Franklin. I mean, that's just the interior decor. Leaving that aside, what other contrasts have you noticed already?
Okay, well, I must note about the Oval Office, he also has a Diet Coke button in there, which I think he had that in his first term, and he brought it right back to his second term. But I think the biggest contrast between Donald Trump and former President Joe Biden is the accessibility factor, because with Joe Biden's presidency, we rarely ever heard from him, to be honest. He didn't take a lot of questions from the press. He didn't hold a lot of press conferences. We had a lot of press briefings with his press secretary, but we were never really hearing directly from him. But with President Donald Trump, we have heard from him nonstop. He's been very accessible to reporters. Yesterday, when he was signing executive orders, he took questions for over an hour as he was signing these executive orders. And then again today, he took more questions from reporters after that announcement, the AI announcement. And so it's the accessibility factor that I think is the biggest contrast between the two. And it's very noticeable right off the bat.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Tanya, great to chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Tanya Nori there, senior White House producer for News Nation, joining us live from Washington, D.C.